After the dust has settled on what was a very hectic 24 hours on deadline day for Wrexham Football Club, today we're going to be sitting down here and talking about the 3 players that signed for Wrexham and the 3 players that left the club. It was a very, very busy and a very exciting time, of course, towards the end of the transfer window. Deals getting done at the very last minute. We were sat there in anticipation, thinking if 2 players that we were linked with were going to sign. Luckily, both got across the line, and today we're going to be discussing everything that happened on that very, very busy day for Phil Parkinson and all the staff at Wrexham Football Club. But before we get going into today's video, if you're looking for the best Wrexham content, make sure to get down there and click the red subscribe button. I would just like to say a massive thank you to everyone that has supported the channel over the course of the summer. As you can imagine, it was a lot of transfer videos, and I worked out yesterday that the 13 official signings at Wrexham have generated over 100,000 views on the channel, which is absolutely mind-blowing, and I cannot thank you enough for that support. It's been such a pleasure obviously bringing you the videos and bringing you the insights of the players that we have brought into the club, and I cannot thank you enough for your support. Also as well, I cannot thank you enough for the people that have supported the channel further over the course of the summer transfer window and of course over the course of 2025. So again, thank yous won't do it justice. Without further ado, let's get talking first on the 3 players that left the club. So Tom O'Connor was the first player to leave Wrexham on deadline day, and he departed for League One side Peterborough United. Now the 26-year-old Irishman has made the loan switch for the course of the 25-26 season to Peterborough United, and I think going into this window we kind of knew O'Connor's opportunities in the first team at Wrexham were going to be limited. I didn't really expect at the start of the transfer window, before any signings were made, that Tom O'Connor would be one of the players that would depart the club, but as time goes on, especially in that left centre-back role, bringing in of course Callum Doyle from Manchester City, Lewis Brunt having a decent start to the season, he was down in the pecking order. I think he'd have probably been 3rd or 4th choice in that left centre-back role, so a move away to a League One side like Peterborough is a move that's expected now, of course, in the final few days of the window, and I think it's a move that Tom O'Connor will massively benefit on. Of course, Peterborough United, they're at the bottom end of the table at the minute. I do think they're bottom of League One, so he'll be coming into that team, improving the quality not only in the team but in the back line especially, because they've had a leaky start at the back so far this season. He'll be coming in, he'll most likely be a starter week in, week out. Like I said, he's 26 years old, he's still got a future at Wrexham Football Club if this loan spell at Peterborough United goes really well. Talking on Tom O'Connor as a player, of course, he's very good on the ball. He was technically probably one of the better players at the club, good from set pieces, you know, free kicks, corners, etc. We signed him as a midfielder from Burton Albion, but we only saw him play a couple of games before his injury, and then Phil Parkinson transitioned him into playing in that centre-back role. So whether he'll play in centre-back for Peterborough United or whether he'll play in that central midfield role, we really don't know, but I think it's a move that definitely benefits both parties, I think, like all the players that have left the club. Jacob Mendy was next through the door, and he also joined Peterborough United. He links up with Tom O'Connor to join Darren Ferguson's Peterborough United, and in my opinion, this is a really good opportunity for Jacob Mendy to prove his worth in League One. If we're looking at last season at Wrexham, Mendy again didn't really play much for us, likewise in League Two, so I think this is a really good move for him personally. It's an ambitious project at Peterborough. Yes, they're bottom of the table, but you know, they're a club that's always been in and around there, and obviously Peterborough are a club that are well known for their development of players that get higher moves up the English pyramid, so I think this is a really good opportunity for Peterborough and the club to get the best out of Jacob Mendy, and for Jacob Mendy to see the best version of him, because he's not going to see that if he's on the bench or not even in the matchday squad week in, week out for Wrexham. We saw him play against Preston. Like I said on the channel, that game was sort of for the players that were going to leave the club to get the minutes in the tank, of course, before moving on elsewhere, and Mendy was one of those players. And you're looking at his time at Wrexham, ever since he made the switch up to the EFL, of course, James McLean came in the summer of 2023 and really just stole that left back spot off from Jacob Mendy, of course, on that promotion winning season, and ever since then he's not really had the game time and the opportunity to prove himself to Phil Parkinson. So he's moved on to Peterborough United. They'll be hoping to be that first choice left wing back week in, week out. This is his chance to flourish and play consistently at a very good level in League One and play against opposition that he didn't really play against last season. And of course, it's a straight season long loan without an option to buy, like Tom O'Connor. So we wish Mendy and O'Connor all the best at the Posh. And the first permanent departure at Wrexham was confirmed, and the only one of deadline day. George Evans has had his contract terminated by mutual consent to allow him to make the switch down to League One to League One side Burton Albion, which again, I think it's a really interesting move on George Evans' behalf, and I think Burton fans will be looking at this thinking we've got a real gem on our cards, and I think they should be thinking that, because George Evans is a player that obviously came in from Millwall on deadline day of 2023, and I think injuries really limited his game time at Wrexham. In the games that he did play for us, I thought he was very good on the ball, and I thought from those opening appearances in a Wrexham shirt, he is going to be the midfielder that will take us up and up and up the leagues. But unfortunately, injuries prevented him from being a key player in this Wrexham setup. Burton fans, you've got a very good player if you can keep him fit. Very good on the ball, good passer, reads the game really well, of course, is experienced now. Will just glue that midfield together and provide that extra quality, because if you're looking at Burton Albion, they're a side that are sort of well renowned for being at the bottom end of the League One table, and I think they'll do a bit better this season. Nigel Clough is heavily recruited in the summer transfer window, and bringing a player like George Evans in so late on in the window, I think is a really big coup for them. Keep him fit and you've got a very good midfielder on the cards. So moving on to the players that joined the club on deadline day. Now I made 3 separate videos, but I'm going to sort of collate all the information and what we can expect from these 3 players into today's video. We're talking first about Issa Kaboré, the signing from Manchester City on a season-long loan, no option to buy, but I think is a really good bit of business. If we're looking at Kaboré as a player, he's a very attacking-minded wing-back who's not afraid to take on and beat his man. We've seen him gain that experience all across Europe in his time at his career. He's still 24 years old, but the experience he's got under his belt I think is really vital for a player like him, and really vital for a team like Wrexham who've just jumped up to the Championship. He'll have that experience under his belt, still relatively young as well, but will have that knowledge of playing against most left wingers in the world. Of course, the game in every different country across Europe is completely different. He'll have come up against a lot of different left wingers in their time, obviously, across Europe, and he'll know how they play. So I think that's a really good advantage to bring into this Wrexham team. His defensive abilities and his attacking abilities should hopefully be a massive bonus for us. If we're looking at Kaboré as a player as well, he's a very pacey one, so expect him to be bombing it down that right hand side. Like I said multiple times, taking on his man is the main thing we're going to see Kaboré do. We're going to see a right wing back who's going to have so much confidence and so much ability that I think possibly we might not have already. Of course, Barnett is the only player I can sort of imagine plays like Kaboré, has that really good attacking threat, good cross on him. Longman as well, don't get me wrong, but I think if we're looking at Kaboré, he's going to be a very attacking minded player, flying down that right hand side, putting plenty of crosses into the box, which we've done so many times so far this season, onto Kiefer Moore's head. If we can continue doing that, Kiefer Moore is going to have a field day. And I think as well, all we want from our right wing backs and all we want from Issa Kaboré is going to be a wing back who's going to put those crosses into the box, create those chances and improve the goal output going forward for us. If we are also as well looking at Kaboré's stats in the Premier League season that he did play for Luton Town in the 23-24 campaign, the stats are as follows: 66 crosses, 5 big chances created, 19 dribbles and 2 assists. This was him playing in a Luton Town team that I think everyone expected at the start of the season to go down. A squad that wasn't filled with all that much quality that was obviously going to beat the drop. They gave it a real good go, but if you're looking on paper, Kaboré, those stats I think are really good considering the players he was playing around, and I think they say a lot about him as a player and the style of play that he's going to bring to this Wrexham team. We can talk about his attacking attributes all we want, but we need a good solid defensive wing back when we are signing them on deadline day, and this is exactly what Kaboré is going to bring to the Wrexham team. As well as being good, flying down the right hand flank, putting those crosses into the box, he is very strong defensively. There's a highlight reel that someone posted on YouTube, and watching that, he just seems a really tough player to beat. He's strong. I think in 1v1 situations that's his main forte, of course, defending. He's a very tough player to beat, a very good tackler. The amount of ball recoveries that he is going to record for Wrexham this season are going to be through the roof. And if we are looking at his ball recoveries for Luton Town, 102 of them in the Premier League, 117 duels won and 28 tackles won. So as well as going forward, like I said, he's going to be a very strong defensive player, which again, if you want a wing back that's going to be good, you need them to have that good output going forward, but also very strong defensively, and I think we've got that in Kaboré. So I'm very excited to see what Kaboré can bring to this Wrexham team, because Parky obviously looked late on into the transfer window and thought we could do with that extra cover down that right hand side, and I'm surprised by that because Barnett started off the season away at Southampton in the following league game. Ryan Longman's come in, and I don't think either of them have put really bad performances in. If anything, I think that's been probably our strongest position down that right hand side early on in obviously the Championship season. So bringing a third option into the mix, again, it's not a bad problem to have, but it's one that definitely surprised me late on in the transfer window. And to think that Longman, Barnett or Kaboré, one of those is going to miss out on the squad every single week, I think is just testament to how strong we've obviously strengthened in this transfer window and how well we've recruited in every single position, because having one of those miss out in this squad is crazy. And I think adding Kaboré into the mix is only going to be a bonus for us. It's going to increase the training and the performance levels of the other 2 right wing backs, and again, I can only see it being a positive for us. I think also that does raise the question as to who will start in that first game back at home to QPR. Of course, the international break is coming up, Kabore is out with Burkina Faso at the minute, so whether he'll be rested for that first game, in my opinion, I think we're going to see Ryan Longman start against QPR, but as time goes on, I think performances will also be a key factor as to who plays. And yeah, it's going to be a really interesting question, so let me know in the comments, who would you start in our first game back after the international break? Dom Hyam was the next player through the door, and a signing that looked to be very, very close in terms of getting the paperwork done. Apparently it was obviously minutes away from the transfer deadline. We got the deal across the line. It was an absolute ball ache, of course, to get him in from Blackburn Rovers, but Parky obviously felt so strongly about getting Hyam into the mix at Wrexham, and I think we've got a really good defender on our cards, and a deal that was well worth the stress behind the scenes to get it done late on in the transfer window. We saw a journalist say that, you know, we were working very hard behind the scenes, the staff were working hard late into the night. Obviously it's well worth it now because we've got 3 very good players on the cards. We're going to be talking on Dom Hyam now. We're bringing an experienced and consistent performer at championship level into the squad, and something that we will never turn down at Wrexham Football Club because we've not been in this league for 40 odd years. We're going to want to recruit those players that have that knowledge and obviously have that experience playing at this level before. And if you're looking at Dom Hyam, sort of his age, 29 years old, and his experience, it doesn't really get better than that, and I think it goes hand in hand, of course, with the recruitment strategy at Wrexham this summer. Hyam, if we're looking at him, he has 208 championship appearances to his name. This is just going to add further quality and competition at this level for Wrexham, and I think the competition obviously is going to be massive because we know no position in this Wrexham team is secure, no position is guaranteed for a player in this Wrexham squad. So I really like the look of this signing. It definitely does raise the question as to who will start in that defensive back 3, because Hyam last season in the Championship, he played every single game for Blackburn Rovers, so it's going to be an interesting one. He wouldn't have signed for Wrexham if, you know, he's obviously going to be sat on the bench week in, week out. Who will start? I think he'll probably start in the middle of the back 3, so it'll be a toss-up between Connor Cody and Dom Hyam. I think his experience and his quality on the ball is something we really need in this division this season, and you need depth in every area of the pitch if you want to be a team that's going to be succeeding, obviously at the top end of the Championship, and I feel like this is something we've done really well over the course of the summer. And in terms of Hyam as a defender, we can expect another leader added to this group. I think having a look at obviously the scout reports from Dom Hyam, obviously from other people, they seem to see his leadership as one of his key attributes, and I think his experience as well for the likes of Max Cleworth and Lewis Brunt is something that they're going to benefit off as well, and I think something that the whole squad is going to benefit off is his Championship experience. When times are tough, Wrexham are going to need those players that are going to step up and obviously lead by example, and Dom Hyam is definitely going to be one of those players for us. And having a look at managers' opinions on him online, obviously he said when he signed his new contract just a couple of months ago in the summer transfer window, he said he's solid, reliable under pressure, strong in duels and vocal on the pitch. And his stats from last season definitely do back that up. 28 tackles won, 245 duels won, 178 of those being aerial duels, and 140 ball recoveries. And not to forget, he played every single game in the Championship last season, so we've got a very good player on the cards. He's been described from journalists as very underrated and the glue that holds the back line together, and I think that does just emphasise his consistency and his leadership even further, and it's the type of player that I can imagine Phil Parkinson really wanted through the door. So if we're looking at a player like him, his experience, he's consistently available in the matchday squad, obviously 46 out of 46 games played last season, and that's sort of the story over the course of his career. I think we've got a really good player on the card, so welcome to Wrexham, Dom Hyam. And last but not least, Ben Sheaf arrived from Coventry City. The 27-year-old midfielder has put pen to paper to sign for Wrexham in a fee reported to be around £6.5 million, and I think this is a really good signing for this squad and just adds further quality and depth into that midfield role. If we're looking at Sheaf as a player, he's mainly utilised as that defensive midfielder, but can also play in that flank central midfield role, which I think will be something that definitely caught Phil Parkinson's eye, and an area in that central defensive midfield role that definitely needed more depth and more quality, because Matty James is only really the player that can play in that position. So adding Sheaf into the mix I think is going to be a massive coup for us. Obviously looking at Ben Sheaf's defensive side to his game, it's something that is very, very strong and something that I think again Phil Parkinson has brought him in for. He reads the game really well, he can break up the play really well in the middle of the park. We can expect him to dictate the tempo and the intensity of the game that he's playing in, again really, really well. He's a player that carries many attributes to his game, and a player that I think is going to bring those attributes into the Wrexham team and see the performance levels go from here to here as time goes on. It looks as if as well Ben Sheaf is a tough tackler and loves to get stuck in the middle of the park. He ranks highly last season for successful tackles and ground duels won. And I think there's been a few times for Wrexham this season where we're looking at the midfield, we're caught out on the counter-attack, or we're sort of just over-dominated in that midfield play. But I think bringing Sheaf into that midfield role with his attributes, I think there's going to be a lot less times where we're going to see Wrexham exposed in the middle of the park, and I think this is a very logical signing from Phil Parkinson. If we're looking as well, his leadership qualities, he's been captain at Coventry City. Obviously, most years that he has spent at the football club, he's going to be a leader for Wrexham on and off the pitch, and his composure was also highlighted by Coventry fans as one of his main attributes, as well as his good long range and short range passing. So yeah, I think Ben Sheaf is going to be that perfect player to sit in that central defence midfield role, sit in front of the back three really well, add that cover, add that sort of strong style of play to this Wrexham team, and just not let any prisoners come forward for Wrexham, and not let us get exposed on the counter-attack, which we have seen a couple of times. I think it's going to be a really good signing as time goes on and through the course of the Championship season, as Wrexham look to be more ambitious than we already are. So again, I'm really happy with this signing, and let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. So if you did enjoy, make sure to drop a like, make sure to click the red subscribe button as well. We're on the road to 30,000 subscribers. Any new subscriptions to the channel are massively appreciated, and until the next video, take care guys, up the filthy rich Reds.